Okay, thank you. Okay, we will now call the Board of Trustees regular board meeting to order. At this time now, we'll entertain a motion for the,
You have an echo. Move your microphone back.
yeah, I think they just adjusted.
Oh.
Yep, thank you. Entertain a motion for the adoption of agenda and approval of the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Properly moved
Second.
by Ms. Coates, second by Ms. Green. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote electronically. I believe Ms. Coakley is on via Zoom, and I believe she's voting electronically as well.
Yay.
Thank you. She said yes. Okay, that motion passes. Item 1C, approval of minutes. Ms. Green.
Can someone explain to me what's going on here and all the minutes and are being asked to approve minutes for meetings that we weren't, because orientation, for instance, I wasn't there. And so I'm just, and did we not approve the minutes from the October board meeting? I'm just trying to understand why we've got all that.
Hang on one second, let me go back. Okay, your question again, Ms. Green, is we're approving the minutes from,
Is there a reason we didn't approve the minutes from the October meeting
At our November meeting.
and the November meeting? And you bring in the orientation minutes to us to approve, some of us were there. And so, I don't have a problem with it, but
okay,
when I saw all of that, I just needed to get an explanation.
okay, all right. So do you want to split out then, or split out those meetings that were obtained and we can vote on them separately?
Dr. French has a question.
Or those who were not there, just abstaining.
Correct, Dr. French?
If you want to,
Okay.
I can do that, but I'm not trying to.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, very good question. Thank you. Dr. French?
Yeah, I think we did approve the October 26 minutes. It's in the meeting minutes from November 16th.
Yeah, well, the question was also that the board orientation was also included as well. So Ms. Green's question is approving all at once and those that were not a part of the orientation, and that we're approving those as well. So,
Mr. Chair, may I ask a parliamentarian question?
sure. So we have a very good one online.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought minutes were us to approve actions of a meeting. There were no actions at an orientation per se. It wasn't a meeting. It didn't have a quorum per se. So
It did have a quorum.
You're absolutely right on that. There were no action items on the board orientation minutes. So you could, splitting hairs, you could still move to approve, especially since the majority of the board are new members. So you can proceed and have them vote on the minutes, or you don't have to vote on those minutes because there were no action. It's just the pleasure of the board.
So it was more information for the orientation piece.
Yeah, but my suggestion is to do what Ms. Green wanted to do, bifurcate them, and just because for accuracy, the members of the orientation may want to vote on the minutes as accurate.
Okay. So,
Since we have them in there to be voted on.
okay. So you say, do I hear you to be correct to vote on these separate?
Yes, sir.
And then the orientation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
I move that we approve the board meeting minutes from the November 16, 2020 meeting.
And I would second that and just simply ask that we're not going to take action on the October minutes because that was a typo.
Right.
Right.
I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Darby, and second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions in that motion? Hearing none, I'm going to go around the room unless Julie has it popping up. You do? Okay. Thank
Julie.
you. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Ms. Green, for that observation.
Sure.
And that motion passes. All right, we're entertaining a motion to go into executive session.
Now we have to make a motion to
Oh,
approve the,
the
Yeah,
orientation piece.
Somebody who was at those orientations is going to make that motion.
All right,
Motion to approve minutes from orientation sessions.
okay, that's been moved by Ms. Herrick, and is there a second?
Second,
Dr. French seconds it. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Dr. French?
On new board orientation part 2, December 3rd,
Okay,
the date inside the minutes is incorrect. It says Wednesday, December 2nd. And I believe it was Thursday, December 3rd.
she's correcting it for the motion.
Okay.
okay, thank you, Dr. French, for that observation. Any further questions? Okay, well, ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Those that's not a part of the executive session portion of this meeting, we ask that you please excuse yourself and we will allow you to return upon the completion. As they would say, it's good. Yes, ma'am.
I do not have candy that day. It's hard to believe, but I will go and get
Go
it.
get the candy basket.
Now,
Oh, forgot.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see. No, we've been in a good mode.
All right. Are we ready? Okay. All right, we're now back into open session. At this time now, we'll move for a moment of silence. And at this time now, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. We ask that you please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4A was just for information that was shared with the board. Item 4B.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we return the student to the IEP team for placement consideration at Turning Point Academy if appropriate, and if not, allow the IEP team to determine placement.
Second.
Okay, that motion was moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. And Ms. Coakley, how do you vote?
Aye. It's not popping up on my screen.
I'm sorry, say again?
It's not popping up on her screen.
Yes, how do you vote?
She votes aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Item 4C.
I move that in lieu of expulsion, placement at Turning Point Academy on board probation for a minimum stay of 45 days. Transportation will not be provided. However, a student is eligible to receive a bus pass. Student is eligible to receive a bus pass.
Second.
Okay, that motion was moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Coakley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Item 4D, out of county.
I move to allow the student to remain at the school until the end of this school year and waive tuition for this school year.
Second.
The motion was moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Coakley. That motion carries. Item 4E, out of county transfer request.
I move to allow the student to remain at school until the end of this school year and waive tuition for this school year.
Second.
Motion moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Coakley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item 4F is a personnel matter, breach of contract. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the forwarding of a formal complaint to the South Carolina Department of Education related to a contract teacher.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Coakley. She voted aye. That motion carries. Item 4G, contractual matter. Is there a motion?
I move that we table this discussion until our January 11th Committee of the Whole meeting. Ask that the party present to us and prepare to answer some questions, and we will vote on this in our January board meeting.
Okay. Properly moved by Ms. Coates, second by Ms. Waters. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Coakley? How do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. Item 4H, contractual matter. Is there a motion?
I move that we ask that the operations office provide a list of usable facilities so that we can make a better decision in the January meeting. Second.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Waters, second by Ms. Darby. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Coakley, how do you vote? Ms. Coakley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. At this time now, we will have a COVID-19 update. Dr. Postlewaite.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I am really pleased that this evening we have two of the medical professionals who've been working with the district almost since day one with us. They're joining us via Zoom. Probably not speaking too much is Dr. Katie Richardson, who's the medical director for the Low Country Public Health Region with DHEC. Doing a lot of the talking tonight is Dr. Allison Ross Eckert. She is the director of the Pediatric Infectious Disease Division at MUSC, and she's also heading up the MUSC Back to Business effort. So we are so pleased to have these officials with us to present to the board. Then the administration will make some recommendations to the board. Then we'll pause for questions and answers on this item. Thank you. Next slide. And Dr. Eckert, are you on with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. I love when technology works well. I'm getting a little bit better as time goes on in our wonderful pandemic. So as she mentioned, I'm Allison Eckert, and I'm thrilled to be here today. And I appreciate you taking time, given that it's getting later and later in the evening. So I have a short presentation that I was asked to give, and I'll go through it fairly quickly. But then I'm always happy to take questions now and later this week and at any time if something arises. Next slide. So I'm sure all of you are very tired of the pandemic, as are we. I've worked very closely with Ellen and Jeff since early this summer. And this has been a lot of sleepless nights and worry, but we are making progress. And I think you'll see some of the amazing work that Ellen and Jeff and others are doing within the schools to keep things running as well as can be expected in this unprecedented time. Next slide. So I am a pediatric infectious diseases physician, but I'm also a mother, and those are my 2 children there. So I really do get this on many levels. Neither of my children go to Charleston County School District, so I feel like I'm pretty impartial and really am just trying to help everybody the best that I know how. All of my data and slides come from scientific publications, local and national guidelines, and my expert opinion, at least as of 12/14, because we all know this changes every minute. Next slide. So I have 2 slides, I'm going to read through them, and I like to present it this way. I usually present data to support these facts, but in the interest of time, I just like everybody to sort of be on the same page when it comes to how I think about COVID and what we know, so that when you see my recommendations or my thinking later on, this is why some of those decisions and opinions exist. So COVID really is very serious. This pandemic has caused worldwide morbidity and mortality that's unprecedented from anything that we've ever seen so far in history. It is true that statistically older people and people with underlying conditions are more likely to have severe COVID and to die from COVID. But many of these underlying conditions are very common, such as diabetes and high blood pressure. And many of those people would have lived very many decades had they not contracted COVID. And to date, there's so much we don't know yet about the long-term effects of COVID. So it is important to think about some of these things when we talk about the implications for the community. South Carolina has been hit very hard by COVID, especially when you consider our death rate and our case rate per 100,000. We're not that populated of a state, but we have been hit hard. And in some of the areas of South Carolina where it's more rural, the public health facilities and the hospitals are just not equipped to deal with such a crisis. And despite what many people have read in the news or the national news, in South Carolina, we were really above capacity for a lot of July and August. Even though we kept expanding beds, we really struggled and were on the verge of resorting to crisis standards. Next slide. So COVID in children is a little bit different than in adults. Despite what you may have read, children can get COVID. And as the number of people in the US and worldwide increase, so do the numbers of children who have been infected. We are well over 1 million children who have been confirmed to have had COVID. Children can transmit the virus that causes COVID, even if they are asymptomatic. There is some evidence that younger children, particularly those less than 10, are less likely to get infected or transmit the virus. But there's much we don't know about this, and that's not to say never. They do. My 4-year-old has it right now, and I consider her quite infectious, actually. But it is so far true, and this has stood the test of time throughout the pandemic, that COVID in children does tend to be very mild. Severe disease is rare, and it usually occurs in children who have underlying conditions. Multisystem inflammatory syndrome, on the other hand, usually occurs in children who don't have any underlying conditions. It's very rare, but when it happens, it is very serious and often life-threatening. At MUSC, we have now treated 9 children, and they have all been critically ill when they've come in, but it is very rare. And not surprisingly, the cases in children parallel those of the community at large. So as the community numbers increase, so do the numbers among children. But that is only part of the story, and you'll see a little bit more as we go on. Next slide, please. So this has been very stressful for everybody, but I don't envy any of the positions of those making school decisions. So everybody around the country has done things a little bit differently based on state guidelines and in local areas as well. We all know, I think this goes without saying, that there are many negative consequences of not having in-person school. You all know that probably better than I do. But we really do want children to go to school in person, not just for direct educational benefits, but ancillary services and other things that children get in school. So when we started in-person school back in September, we were at a medium to high disease activity in Charleston County. We had just come down off of the high disease activity state. So there was a lot of disease activity when we started, which is not too different than what we're starting to see now. So keep that in mind a little bit. And the schools have just done a phenomenal job of implementing multiple mitigation strategies. I call this the Swiss cheese method. For those of you in business, this isn't a new concept, but is new for the pandemic. So the more things we can put into place to prevent infection and transmission is what we like. And that is all across the board, from an individual level through a facility level to a district level to a state level. And it's been really amazing to watch people put these all in place. That said, physical distancing and masks are still the two biggest mitigators, and that's important to keep in mind. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of data so far from Charleston County. And this is the last 4 weeks of data. And so keep in mind that within the district, there are over 49,000 students and staff that we're talking about. So you can see each day how many people test positive. In my opinion, these are tiny little numbers compared to the total numbers of students and staff. And as our numbers in the community start increasing again, so far our numbers have maintained fairly stable levels. That may change a little bit as our numbers continue to rise, but so far they've been pretty consistent. Next slide. So this tells you a little bit of the last 4 weeks, the average cases per day. And you can see here that the average is going up a little bit, not unexpected to a huge degree, given that our numbers are increasing in the community and we are testing a lot more than we were several months ago. Next slide. So what is remarkable to me, and what is probably the most important slide in my entire presentation, is that while it's not surprising that people have been positive, it's in the community, so you're not going to be immune just because you go to school. But it is remarkable that given all of the mitigation strategies that have been put into place, and our contact tracing within the schools and our testing and our isolation, that to date, there have been only 2 positive cases where those cases likely came from somebody else at school. In every other case, they appear to have come from a contact within the community. And most of those are either within the household or close contacts, say at a sleepover or friends coming over. And almost all of the transmissions outside the classroom have come from the mostly from household contacts or from relatives. But we have seen an increasing number of transmissions occurring through sports. And those are mostly contact sports like basketball or football. And some of those have been outside of school-sponsored events, but some of them have occurred through school-sponsored events as well. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell if it's coming from the actual court, for example, for basketball, or if it's coming through contact with athletes that occur outside of the court, but outside of school. So for example, carpooling to and from sports, that has been another key element in transmission among students and staff. And of course, there's only so much that you can do in mitigating risk outside of the classroom. There have been a number of transmissions that have occurred through sleepovers and parties and things that we only have so much control over. Next slide. So not everything is created equal, and this is still a little bit of a work in progress around the country, but we know that there are some activities that are much higher risk of transmission than others. And I think that that is part of why the school has done so well within the classroom. You put all these mitigation factors in play, and you don't allow things like singing inside and other things that we know are of very high risk. So you can see here it's delineated a little bit by the activity, and the ones in red are going to be the highest amount of risk. Not surprising, because those are the ones where physical distancing is more difficult, or perhaps it's a little more difficult to wear masks, or in the case of singing, those droplets spread much farther than our typical 6 feet and can end up being the super spreader events that you read about in the news. Next slide. So this is just a little snapshot of what is going around the community at this moment. I'll walk you through these slides. So there's no question that our numbers are increasing in South Carolina again. If you look at the top left, those are the 7-day averages by region in South Carolina. All of the regions are increasing, some more than others. So upstate and in the Midlands, they've really been hit a lot harder than the Low Country since the beginning of this pandemic for really unclear reasons to some extent. The Florence region for MUSC has been hit very hard. So the Low Country is increasing in its 7-day average, but not to the extent of the other regions. If you look at the bottom left, that is the disease activity by county that DHEC puts out every week. And it is based just not on just the number of cases, but which direction the cases are going, the positivity rate, and the overall look of that county. And so this whole map was dark blue when we started with our surge in July and August. And by September, many counties had decreased to the medium disease activity. And we are back up to nearly every county in South Carolina in the high area of activity. So if you look to the top right, that's Charleston County. And you can see that this is, again, the biggest thing that I want you to look at is the green line. So that's the 7-day moving average. The reason I included this is because you can see where our cases were in July. So we are not there yet in Charleston County. I'm hoping that with the introduction of the vaccines and the increased testing around the holidays, that hopefully we will not get to that place again. So it's important to keep this in mind when we're talking about the increase in cases that's occurring now. We're still nowhere close to where we were in July. And this is also reflective in the bottom 2 graphs on the right. And I included this to show you, these are admissions to MUSC Health across South Carolina. The top graph is current. If you look at the dates, it's a little bit small, and then down below is July dates, and they're divided by admissions by age group. So I just want to give you a little trend. So if you look at the bottom, At the peak in the 19 to 49-year-olds, there were 43 admissions that particular day. And you can see if in the little graph above that there were 9 in that same age group. So yes, we are on our way up, but hospitalizations still have not increased to the levels where we were in July. And so we have seen an uptick, but not to that same level. And hopefully this will not continue to increase to that extent again. Next slide. So there is a lot of things for the administration to consider. This is very, very complex with many moving parts, and it is just not straightforward by any stretch. And Dr. Richardson and I have been working very closely with the team at Charleston County School District to try to help them navigate some of these very tough decisions. One of those decisions is remaining in person versus going virtual. In most cases, we're trying very hard to keep the kids in school. And so when you look at the transmission risk within the classroom, it is still very low. And so that is an important thing to think about. And then the other part is sports, which has been really a driver of many of these transmissions, and trying to weigh the pros and the cons of keeping sports going versus canceling or postponing. So I think that is my last slide. I've lost the PowerPoint, so, but I think it is. And I will stop there.
Thank you. If we can, I'm not sure if we've lost the PowerPoint as well. We'll load the PowerPoint into Board Docs. We were at the start of the board meeting time when we received the final slides from Dr. Eckert. There was a quote in the slides that we wanted to share with you. It was from Dr. David Cole. He says, during this holiday season, I understand and share the temptation to gather as we've always done. Some people have sacrificed too much for us to falter now. Stay diligent. Now is not the time to let our guard down. Make safe and smart decisions for your loved ones. So it's critical as we head into the holidays that the 50,000 individuals who are affiliated every day with Charleston County Schools take to heart the advice that we receive from Dr. Cole, as we take advantage of the expertise that we receive from Dr. Eckert, Dr. Richardson, and others at MUSC and DHEC who have worked so diligently alongside us. Dr. Richardson, was there anything that you wanted to say this evening?
I am just happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I really just wanted to be here to support using data in the decision-making and these very difficult decisions, and to let you know that that I too speak to Ellen and Jeff often, as well as Dr. Eckert, and continue to share the latest CDC and DHEC guidance. There's new quarantine guidance that we have discussed. There's new interim school guidance on positive cases and close contacts. And I just wanted you to know that I was here and very much involved, and feel like the school district is doing a wonderful job from what I know of what they're doing and what other school districts around the state and around the country are doing. You've really got a wonderful team doing the contact investigations, the case investigations, and we're just here if you have any questions, and know that you're using good data to make difficult decisions, and we're there with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Richardson. Thanks, Dr. Eckert. If you could stand by for just a moment. Jeff Barowie, our Chief Operating Officer, heads up the division that helps make these decisions. And so he's going to speak to our final slide entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? Mr. Barowie?
Thank you, Dr. Postway. I would be remiss without once again thanking Dr. Eckert and Dr. Richardson, as well as Ellen Nitz, who's here today with her staff. I have the opportunity to speak with districts around the country on a regular basis, and they, I can guarantee you, are envious of the relationship and the team that we have put together here. When we talk about state health regulators, we talk about our hospital professionals, and we talk about an internal staff. I don't think there's a triad that even compares around, and that's, I think, led to the success, a big part of the success we've had so far. So what I'm going to lay out here are a number of thoughts from the district staff on where we need to go from here. It's based on the information that was provided by Dr. Eckert. But when you look at the minimal number of transmissions and cases within our schools, that's a huge factor, as well as the fact that we did successfully return after Thanksgiving. Even though we did see the daily number of cases rise, it did level out over this past week. So we're looking at continuing with the current education routine on the 4th of January. We still have to obviously maintain our hypervigilance with everything that we have done and will continue to do. The 4 W's, wearing the masks, watching our distance, washing our hands, and whoa, don't touch your face, make up that 4W chain. That has to continue. I've had the pleasure of visiting a number of schools, and I walk out of every school continually amazed at what our teachers and what our kids are doing to follow these rules, even the littlest of kids following the protocols that are necessary. And I think it's been highly effective across the entire district. From a testing perspective, Ellen has, her and her team working with MUSC have rolled out and are continuing to work the saliva testing that is sent to MUSC. We get those results back within 12 to 24 hours. It's been highly effective. We are in the process of rolling out the state Binax Now kits. We have those in place. We had to get the consent forms. We had to get the disposal procedures laid out and make sure that from a nursing perspective, we were ready to follow everything we needed to follow for their safety. We are rolling those kits out. We'll begin to use it later this week, and be ready to roll that out fully in January. What that test gives us is a quick result. So if we get a positive result from that Binax Now kit, the student or the teacher goes home, we can begin contact tracing immediately. If the test ends up negative, we still do the saliva sample, which has a higher efficacy rate. And so we basically do a double test on those that are negative. We're still just testing symptomatic individuals in the schools at this point. And we are, however, we have been arranging for testing agencies to help us, whether it be FEDER, DHEC, MUSC. They've set up testing for us this week. They've got us lined up to come back on the week of the 4th to do testing for us as folks come off of their holidays as well for that outside testing. It was mentioned by Dr. Eckert. We've had some challenges with sports as far as cases, and not all of those are within the team themselves, our team themselves. A lot of times we'll find out the day after an event that the other team had a positive case, but when we do the contact tracing, we can't distinguish who and who didn't have contact with those individuals. And so we've had to quarantine entire teams. And at this point, as of this second, because the number does change on a regular basis, we've quarantined 15 out of 60 schools. It's 50 teams since the middle of November. So that's 15 teams out of 60. That's about 25%. Again, those teams that were quarantined in the middle of November are back playing again. But that right now is the biggest risk we have at this point. If in any of those cases, if there was a case on a team and we didn't identify it, and those kids got back into the school population before we could quarantine them, we obviously would stand a risk of closing down additional classrooms in an individual school. We've had the quick contact tracing, we've had a quick identification, but that's something that creates a heavy burden on our nursing staff to get that done. So our discussion point with this one is that we'd like to talk with principals and athletic leaders tomorrow to work through some of the details. We've already seen 2 of our high school charter teams suspend their sports programs. Charleston Math and Science and James Island Charter is now going to suspend their programs. There are 4 districts in the state that have done that already as well. So that's a discussion we want to have with those leaders tomorrow morning, with the possibility of securing, suspending sports until that second week of January, third week of January, actually.
Thank you, Reverend Mack. We'll turn this part of the superintendent's report back over to you to entertain questions.
Okay, at this time now, if there are any questions from board members, ask that you signify. And we will start the time on your first question. Go ahead, Dr. French.
Hello, Dr. Eckert. It looked like the data that you were showing in CCSD was from the DHEC dashboard. The numbers on the CCSD dashboard are a bit higher. And I just didn't know what you guys are using to determine contact tracing and how effective we are at determining whether or not we're having a transmission at the schools. And part of this that I'm trying to get at is that we know there's underreporting of cases, and I just want to know, how do you incorporate that into your analysis when you know that there are people that aren't necessarily reporting?
So those numbers from Charleston County cases came from Charleston County, from Ellen and the contact tracing team. So I don't know if the discrepancy may be the difference between isolation and quarantine. And keep in mind that those were on that particular day. So people come in and out of isolation, every 10 days. So Jeff or Ellen may be able to comment more on how those numbers look compared to what you are looking at. But your question about underreporting is an issue everywhere around the country. And there have been a number of times in other schools that I work with where the family hasn't reported, a positive case in the household, or a positive contact at a sleepover or whatever. And that is the nature of this pandemic. And so it's one of those things that you just have to consider in your thinking. But there's only so much that we can do. You can keep educating people and hoping that people will be honest. But the way I look at it is that the contact tracers have taken each positive case and they look to see if they can be connected with other positive cases in the classroom, in the schools. And to my knowledge, almost all of those have had another positive contact, say at home or outside of the school. So I feel pretty good about the transmission numbers within the school. And intellectually, it makes sense because the schools have put in so many barriers that it is much less likely to transmit within the classroom with plexiglass and hand hygiene and masks than it would be in the household or in at a sleepover or whatever. So it makes sense as well. But it is a constant struggle to follow the numbers and make sure that things aren't trending in the wrong direction. And I think that the ultimate balance is protecting the community and protecting the families versus protecting the kids by keeping them in the classroom.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Eckert. Is there any further questions from any other board members? Ms. Green?
Is there going to be, when we come back from the holidays, any automatic testing? What is the protocol going to be for that?
Ms. Green, there is no automatic test. We don't have any automatic testing plan for coming back. We will continue to test symptomatic personnel and encourage folks to get the testing. We've published the dates and locations for that testing for both symptomatic and asymptomatic kids.
You're going to have some of those lined up, like
right after you come back from.
Correct. We've actually, end of last week, communications published dates for the first week of January already.
So you know, I
Take all the help I can get.
Any further questions from any other board members?
And I would say too, MUSC is doing pre and post holiday testing as well, in addition to the testing that they're creating with Charleston County. So there is lots of opportunity for people to get tested before they come back, if they choose to do so.
Okay, Dr. Frazier?
Mr. Browery, are principals being told not to report to anyone else outside of the district regarding COVID-19 cases?
The communication has been very specific with the principals on who they should be communicating and not communicating with. We want to make sure that we're protecting the privacy of our students, we're protecting the privacy of our teachers. And Ellen Nitz has been pretty much the gatekeeper with making sure that the dialogue is with the principal, that comes to her, that she does the contact tracing. And I'm not aware of circumstances where they're out talking to folks about what's going on in their school. So if anything, we've had some parents that have been disappointed that they're not getting more information from the principals, but we're trying to be consistent with across the district on what's being said. And that's either published through that's either published through our website, or close contacts are contacted directly by Ellen's staff to tell them that they're quarantined.
Okay, Dr. French, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I applaud the decision to close, I hope, or the conversation, and I hope that you will decide to limit athletic and other close contact activities that might be more likely to spread. I do have a question for Dr. Postlewaite, because I was curious. We don't really know what the plan is for how to make decisions about specific schools that may be having problems with COVID. And so I wanted to know, under what circumstances would you consider closing a school due to COVID and quarantine impacts? And what metrics would you use for that within the school population?
We have exactly the right people on this call to collaborate or to verify, to confirm that this is, to validate this is what we do. Ellen Nitz works very closely with Dr. Richardson. Someone told me that she and Dr. Richardson are on the phone daily. I don't know if that's
Hourly.
a bit of Dr. Richardson and or Dr. Eckert or someone on their teams help talk through every single situation, look at all of the factors that impact that situation. Sometimes the way that children interact in a classroom will make a difference in whether a classroom needs to close or whether we feel the threat of spread is higher than in other classrooms. I would ask if Mr. Browe or Director of Nursing Ellen Nitz want to add to that answer. They may want to elaborate a bit, but it's truly a case by case, classroom by classroom, wing by wing, school by school decision in collaboration with the health professionals. Anytime the health professionals tell us we need to shut it down, we'll shut it down.
I think it would be a great opportunity to hear from Ellen. If you want to step to the podium, give it a chance. Because I want her to have an opportunity to explain to you all those inner workings with Dr. Richardson and in many cases Dr. Eckert as well. When there is a case in the district that looks odd or that could present a possible situation where a classroom might need to be closed. And as Dr. Postlewaite mentioned, the conversations between her and Dr. Richardson are daily, and it's probably even multiple times a day. But I'm taking up Ellen's space here. I'd like Ellen to just talk about how she does some of those, has some of those discussions to determine we can stay fully open.
So thank you, Jeff. So really and truly, we have to look at every single case and work it individually. And it will be based upon the investigative findings of who the positive contact was, whether it would be a teacher or a student, and then the interaction that they have within their classroom. And so there is not, I had one principal that said, could you put that in a flow chart? And it's really almost impossible to put in a flow chart because there are so many different variables of how you could do the contact tracing. So after we find our positive case, we find out who the close contacts are. We go through through a whole system of questions, trying to help people remember what they have done for the past up to 4 days, possibly, because we have to go 48 hours prior to symptom onset. So having to help them jog their memory, asking them, if they had any special contact with students that may have discipline issues, with students that have, like resources. If it's different kids, then we have to find out from the principal what the seating arrangement is within the classroom. We have to find out if they rode the bus, if they do kaleidoscope, if they do extracurricular. So the list is so great that it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort to get this information. But what I am very proud to say is that through this hard work, we have been able to prevent further transmission in schools. And we do have the data. I have the database that proves that you can go through and see who that, with the close contact, who the positive case was. And if that close contact should convert to positive, then, who that would be linked to. So it's been a lot of coordination, but I do have a staff of 7 other nurse managers that help and assist with this. I actually am going to be bringing on another full-time contact tracer in January because it's very much needed and because this is our priority. If we can't keep our schools healthy, then we're not going to be able to stay open. And with all the risk mitigators that you heard Dr. Eckert say over and over again, all the different strategies that we have in place, we are prepared and we are keeping our kids safe. What you need to know, because you were going to be asked by the community over and over again, is we're seeing more cases in school. We are going to have positive cases in school, make no doubt, because we are going to see an increase in our community. It is the holidays. People will make decisions, sometimes not the best, to gather and to celebrate. And the one thing that I went over with a mom today was, if you are concerned, I plead with you to use your voice on social media to have people do the right thing during the holiday. Stay within your own family. Do not gather. Do not go to parties. Learn how to Zoom and play games and do things with your own family and really help protect those that you love and those that may be, more susceptible to COVID. We have lost way too many lives. Our sacrifice has been too great, and we all need to pull together to do the right thing. Yes, ma'am.
So I really appreciate that, and I know you guys are doing very hard work, but I still am just wondering, and this may have to do with what the community incidence is more than what the transmission rate is. What triggers closing a wing, closing a classroom, closing a school? What number of cases, what number of people are out before you consider that? Because those are the kind of metrics I'm asking about.
Sure. And Dr. Eckert, are you still on the line?
I am.
So would you like to be able to answer that for us?
Sure, I can do my best. So I will answer exactly, to the best of my ability what you're asking, but I really do want to emphasize our numbers in schools are going to go up. It is inevitable because our numbers in the community are going up. That doesn't mean necessarily that there is an increased risk to the children in the classroom. On some level, they have a higher risk if they're not in school, behind plexiglass and behind a mask, and they're out with their friends thinking that outdoor is perfectly fine, but they're 2 feet next to their friend, or they have a sleepover, or you name it. And that is what we have seen for the last 6 months. So I really do want to emphasize that. But to your point, I have spoken to Ellen many times, and sometimes she'll get off the phone with Dr. Richardson, and then she'll call me. And so, I mean, she does not make these decisions on her own. They are in conjunction with all of us. And what we typically look at is how many are in a classroom who have been positive. In some of the cases, we have seen multiple kids in a classroom who are positive, but the common link is the basketball team and not actually the classroom. And so it often looks a certain way, but is not that way when you really talk to people, which is why it is difficult to have an algorithm. So DHEC does not make specific recommendations about closing classrooms or closing schools. But what we typically use is some of the same metrics that we use for influenza. And influenza, the recommendation typically is that if more than 10% of the students are out with febrile illnesses, they have a fever, they look like they have influenza, or people in a particular school notice that the absentee rate is above 10%, that would be probably a trigger to close that school. In general, DHEC has offered advice about 3 in a classroom. If there are 3 children in a classroom who are positive, that may be a trigger to close that classroom. But that really has not happened very many times. And like I said, the common theme is often not the classroom. It's that, say, 2 were siblings and a third's a cousin, for example. And I don't know all of the specific examples, but I'm in contact with other schools besides those in Charleston County. And that has been pretty much what we see across the board when I talk to the school nurses or others for these circumstances. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, I'm happy to talk further.
Thank you, Dr. Eckert. Thank you, Dr. Richardson, Ms. Netz. Thank you so much, Mr. Rory and the staff. And I don't want to continue calling names because there are a number of people that goes into decision-making on the day-to-day operation as far as our schools are concerned. And we're very appreciative of the highly skilled resources that we have to our disposal in helping us to make these daily decisions as far as COVID is concerned. And Dr. Eckert, I truly thank you for your insight and your presentation that you presented to us today. It's been a wealth of knowledge and information. And on behalf of the board, I would just like to say thank you so much for your input. And Dr. Postwood, I'll turn it back over to you if there's anything further.
Yes, sir. You all may want to stand for just a moment. You've been sitting for a while, but in December is when we bring to you the external financial audit independent report to the board. And our auditors from Allen are up next. And I know that Mr. Kennedy is going to introduce them and their presentation, but I would like to invite the board just to take a 30-second stand break because I know you have to be tired of sitting.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. We will take a 1 minute instead of 30 seconds. We'll do 1 minute. 1 minute break to stretch their legs.
I love Natasha, yeah. So in this Jones thing, you've been absolutely wonderful.
Our board meeting at this time now, we'll have special recognitions. Ms. Erica Taylor.
Thank you, Reverend Mack. Vice Chair Waters, board members, we have some very special recognitions to share with you this evening. The first recognition we'd like to share is Ms. Lakevia Mills, who is our 2019-2020 District Teacher of the Year. She was selected from over 80 school-based teachers of the year, and she's helped lead the CCSD Teacher of the Year Roundtable during this current school year. She teaches principles of biomedical science and the human body, along with biology, to 9th through 12th graders at St. John's High School. She holds a Bachelor of Science and Master's degree in biology from Virginia State University. Prior to coming to CCSD, she taught in Charlotte Mecklenburg School District, and she serves on the School Improvement Council at St. John's and the Regional Health Advisory Board. We want to congratulate Lakevia on being the 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year. Let's give her a round of applause. We're going to allow Lakevia to just say a few words to you all tonight.
Thank you all so much. Good evening, everyone. It's such a great pleasure and honor to represent Charleston County School District, where students are the heart of our work. I am also appreciative and thankful of the support from the district, school board members, teachers, students, and my administrators as I take on this new role. I also want to acknowledge the amazing educators across the district who are working so diligently, amidst the pandemic to show students tough times don't last, tough people do. I'm excited about where this journey will take me, and I'm committed to working continuously to make sure all voices are heard and equity is achieved across the district. Again, thank you all so much.
Next, we'd like to ask the Legion of Valor Bronze Cross recipient, Angel Simmons Bocanegra of Baptist Hill Middle High School. Is Angel on? Angel was named the 2020 recipient of the Legion of Valor Bronze Cross for Achievement. This award is presented to top Army cadets around the world during their senior year. This is the 5th consecutive year a Bobcat cadet has earned this award from the Legion of Valor of the United States of America Incorporated. Angel is one of 3 cadets in South Carolina and the only student from Charleston County School District and the Low Country to earn the honor this year. She is one of just 29 of approximately 315 Army JROTC cadets worldwide to receive the Legion of Valor Bronze Cross. Upon graduation, she plans to attend college and dual major in chemical science and marine biology with the goal of working in both fields. Please let's help give Angel a round of applause. Congratulations, Angel. Next, we want to acknowledge the Early College High School. Early College High School was named the National Avid School of Distinction. That means that 100% of their current students are on track to graduate. That also means that 92% of their 10th through 12th grade students completed at least one college course. That also means that 91% of their seniors earned at least 20 college credits. 49% of their seniors will be graduated with an associate's degree. And there are diverse students from throughout CCSD who are part of early college. Let's congratulate Principal Denny and her students. And I will now ask Reverend Mack to acknowledge 2 special guests tonight. One is Reverend Collins and the other is Reverend Holland. Mr. Collins. Reverend Collins, if you would come to the podium, please. Thank you.
So do I need to come stand where you are, Ms. Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. This works. So I'm going to ask the board members that they would just please stand as I make this presentation out. Thank you. Reverend Collins, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge you of your years of service that you have rendered to the CCSD district. Not only we have served together for the past, I think, 6 years together on the board, but it's highly noted that you have served 12 years on the board as a representative of the North Charleston district. You have given your time and your service these past 12 years, not only to North Charleston, but to the entire district as a whole. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for your service. Thank you for your passion that you exhibit throughout those 12 years, but particularly the 6 years that we shared together on the board. You expressed a heart and desire to make things better for kids throughout the district. You asked in-depth questions that would lead to answers to help you better serve throughout the county. And believe it or not, those questions did not go unanswered or unheard of, but you expressed a desire to do likewise. Those 12 years, believe it or not, has made a difference within CCSD, and it have impacted the classrooms. It has impacted our schools as a whole. And not only that, you have set around decision making and serving with the leadership of this district within a whole. So you have done greater impact, believe it or not, throughout your time and your tenure that you have served on the board. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees and behalf of our superintendent and the staff of those that you have worked with for so many years, we'd just like to say thank you for your service that you have rendered to the district.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And I'll be very brief for Ms. Darby's sake, my friend.
My friend.
Well, so when I started out 50 years ago, I had all black hair and an all black mustache. I'm a little speckled now. And I remember Arthur Rabbit was on the board when I got here. And so now I was the only black man on the board at that time. And behold, we had the same thing today.
You all
right? I picked up some weight, lost some clothes. In fact, I got a lot of things that I didn't have when I started out. But through it all, God brought me through. And I want to thank you all for the time of service and support, and Dr. Postlethwaite and staff. They always answer my questions and to the best of their ability. And sometimes I have, had a little beast and stuff, but you got to have that. You got to have a little fight in you doing the school board. And otherwise you just be a rubber stamp. So I encourage you new board members and all your board members to serve the people. Because it's another election, a short time coming, serve the people. Do the best you can do. And I think I miss Ms. Darby the most. Oh. And I'm gonna say why. So we started off kind of rough. But now I think I can just let you out of her hands, maybe she can get out of mine. So God keeps turning things around. So thank God for all of you, Reverend Mac. Thank you. I have great respect for you nowadays, and try to thank God for everybody. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Collins. Thank you.
So again, we are indeed honored to have in our presence with us tonight, Mr. Kevin Hollenshed, who have served with some of us for the past 4 years, and others who know him throughout the community, the service that he has also given. As a representative of North Charleston, Mr. Hollenshed, you have definitely expressed your desire and your willingness to want to make things better for your community and for the kids in CCSD. I'd like to say thank you for your service that you have rendered, the service that you have given, not only to the students and to each school and the areas in which you represented, but you also gave your service to the support of the staff and the work that they have been doing. Thank you so much. I know that you will continue to do just that, your desire to continue to improve your community, because every time that you spoke at the board meetings, you always talk about your community and helping to ensure that things are better for your community that you've had a passion for. You've expressed that, you've shown that, and you have delivered that for your community. We'd like to say thank you for the 4 years that you have given to the CCSD community and to this board. And on behalf of the board, we'd like to say thank you for your service. We trust and pray that things will continue to go in the best interest for you as you take on your new plight and your new endeavors in life. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we do have a presentation for you. And we will make sure that you receive that presentation by some means through our communication staff, and that you will receive that. And again, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, as the board members join in with me, congratulating you on your 4 years of service, we say thank you. Please do say, give us some words that you would like to say tonight, if any.
Well, thank you, Reverend Mack. It's good to see you and the board members. Even though I'm healing from surgery and still moving forward, as I told Erica, I'm about 114 pounds lighter and still adjusting. But I'm still active in my community with the churches in North Charleston, good people like Teddy Pryor and others. We're working to not only close the achievement gap, but to make sure that we work on affordable financial help for parents who want to be homeowners within the neck area. So the work is not done. To close the achievement gap, parents have to be comfortable within the household. It helps the child in closing an education. So I appreciate you, Reverend Mack. I know we have talked extensively in the past few weeks. Look forward to talking to you more. And thank you, Ms. Frazier and other board members that have reached out to me. And I appreciate it. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, now we do have.
Sure, we can.
Yeah. So we're gonna allow Ms. Darby to go first.
Oh, am I going first?
Oh, you want me to go first?
You go first.
All right. This can be good. Okay, Dr. Postlewaite, would you please just stand where you are? We have to social distance. We just had all of these presentations coming forth. But we will definitely pass along. So Dr. Postlewaite, we'd just like to say thank you for your leadership that you have displayed, and the Board of Trustees have collectively gotten together as we indulge into these celebrations of the holidays. And we would like to acknowledge you with a small token that we know graciously that you will appreciate. I almost want to consume it for myself.
That's right.
But needless to say, we know that you will definitely use it to the greatest of extent, given all that you have dealt with over the course of this year, dealing with COVID and so forth on the line. We thank you for you and your staff. We know that you have not done all of this by yourself. It takes a good team of people to make this happen. But we'd like to give you this small token and say to you, Merry Christmas is what I like to say. Folks like to say Happy Holidays, but I myself say Merry Christmas because there's definitely a need of Christ to be remembered as we go through these trying times. So, Phil, if you don't mind, please sharing this as we continue our social distance. Thank you so much, Dr. Postlewaite, for all that you do.
Thank you.
you so much.
Good.
We have another recognition of a staff member. As Dr. Postlewaite pointed out, I know the audience couldn't see, but she couldn't do this without the support of an amazing team. And while we wish we had infinite resources to give everybody, we're going to give a gift to someone who's really, at least in my short tenure here, been very supportive of me, and I think everybody else will agree. And then of course the older board members will agree that this person has served very well, and we just really appreciate you, Trudy. I wanted to give you
Yeah.
and then I just real quickly finish up by we have a gift from the board as well for Julie, and I would echo that I wish we had infinite resources and could give everybody some Christmas gifts. I do want to say for both Trudy and Julie, you know, I called over here about 4 times today. One time about 3 minutes before we were supposed to be here, saying, hey, can you get this for us? And they always are so calm, so collected. So if we need something, it's right there. And not only are they here to support the board, they have like full-time jobs just supporting the superintendent and the district. So I want all of us on the board to say thank you to both of you for the amazing work you do, and to the superintendent, the team as a whole. I feel very thankful for all of you, and enjoy your holiday.
Okay, at this time now, we will have a annual financial audit report. Mr. Kennedy. And let me just, while Mr. Kennedy is coming, you have, this is the packet, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, so did you have your packet of information in your envelope as well too, for you to be able to peruse later on as we go through?
Yes, thanks, sir. So the district issued this past Friday, the annual financial statements for fiscal year 20 that ended June 30. To compile those statements and to audit those is done by our external audit firm, Clifton Larson Allen. So we have 2 members from Clifton Larson Allen tonight to brief the board on the results of audit. Chris Kessler, who is a partner with the firm, and Reed Bounder, who is the audit manager for the engagement with Charleston County School District. So Chris, please.
Great. Thank you, Don. Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be in front of you this evening and talking with you about the results of our 2020 audit and the financial statement results that we have in front of you here. So if you go next slide, please. As Don said, I'm Chris Kessler. I'm principal with CLA, and joining me today is Reed Binder, who's manager on the audit account. Little overview of CLA, just because I know there's some new faces on the board. We are the 8th largest public accounting firm in the country. We do specialize in the public sector, and we are the largest governmental serving public accounting firm in the country as well. So next slide. So the services we performed, just real quick, we are talking about the year ended June 30, 2020. So, 5 months ago, you all were getting preliminary unaudited numbers. Those now have been through the audit and are issued into the financial statements within the packets and the deliverables that you all have received. So the services we provide are, of course, the audit of the financial statements, and we perform that audit in accordance with government audit standards. And then, of course, we also perform what's referred to as the single audit, which is the audit of federal compliance. So we are testing grant expenditures that the school district incurs and expends during the year, and we make sure that they're spent in accordance with the programmatic rules and make sure that all of the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted as it relates to those federal funds that you all receive through South Carolina Department of Education. So next slide, please. So, we've been doing this audit for 5 years, and this isn't a surprise, but 2020 was different in how we had to perform the audit. Obviously, the school district was going through a lot of things during year-end close and trying to get ready for financial statement preparation and the audit with bringing the students back to school, with dealing with the local pandemic in the communities and what was going on. So things were different. So from an audit perspective, South Carolina Department of Education extended the deadline. Typically, financial statements have to be issued by December 1st. Given everything that was going on, they extended that deadline to January 15th. So obviously, the school district, exceeded that by far this year, and we're really, pretty much on the same schedule that we would have been in a non-pandemic year. The GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they delayed all standard implementation by 1 year due to the fact that governments just didn't have the resources to focus on implementation this year. The district's processes and procedures for year-end close were impacted. So, folks working, whether they're remotely or maybe just not gathering in person anymore, as far as, supervision and review and oversight and transaction processing. So, the school district's internal controls had to change. So we had to audit those changes. So a lot of our audit procedures involved looking at things pre-pandemic and, the last quarter of the fiscal year during the pandemic. What were those controls and what were those processes? So it was a lot of effort, both on the school district side and from CLA side in completing the audit. And fortunately, because of technology, the audit was really able to be completed, as normal without skipping a beat. So the school district has implemented an ERP system that has remote access, electronic internal control workflows, and things along those lines that allowed for us to complete our audit remotely and handling a lot of our conversations and former face-to-face interactions via Zoom or Teams or whatever it was. So, given all of the challenges that the school district had this year, the audit really was successful and well executed from our standpoint. So just a quick pause to thank Don and Jackie and their teams for persevering through this challenging time and still getting things done on time and getting things done well for us to get in and get our work done. Next slide, please. So the results of the procedures, we issued an unmodified opinion in our independent auditor's report, which is a clean opinion on the financial statements. We did not have any findings. We did not have any audit adjustments or anything along those lines. And then on the single audit in our federal program compliance, we had a unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, and no findings in any of the grant programs that we tested as well. Next slide, please. And so I want to highlight this chart here very quickly. So for those of you that have been on the board for 5 years and remember back to when we came in and some of the challenges that the school district had and some of the findings when we came in, we had said, if you hired CLA, we are not a firm that is going to, diminish findings. If there's an issue, we're going to let you know because we think findings are important to resolving issues that an entity may have and letting the public and the board and everybody know what challenges may be out there, get them corrected. And so you look at this timeline here from 2018, 2019 to 2020, there are 5 findings in 2018, 1 in 2019, and now 0 in 2020. So that's a testament to the school district and the management team for what they've done. It's not just findings are magically disappearing. These are corrective action plans that have been put in place by the team there to address these findings. So this is a great statistic, a great takeaway from this presentation. Me being the auditor, my one comment on this will be don't take your foot off the gas. Internal controls and processes and following those procedures are always important. As any time that happens, you could potentially run into other things kind of creeping in if you don't keep that focus to have no findings and keep internal controls strong. So just continuing that going forward is the great spot to be in. All right, next slide, please. And now Reed is going to talk a little bit about the numbers that are in those 2020 statements.
Yep, good evening, everyone. This slide, we just wanted to hit on some of the key financial highlights from the past year. We wanted to point the board's attention towards the management discussion and analysis section of the financial statements. Really, that's management's high-level narrative of the financial results. And to talk more specifically about the general fund financial statements, they ended the year with a total fund balance of 145.2 million. As you'll see a couple bullets down, that's an increase in fund balance of 40.4 million from last year. The components of that year-ending fund balance being within the non-spendable category, 5.8 million, within committed, 41.9, assigned fund balance of 33.9, and the unassigned fund balance of 63.6 million. And to talk specifically about the general fund itself, revenues within this fund exceeded budget by 22.1 million. Expenses were 29.2 million less than budgeted. So this ultimately was a large factor in that increase in fund balance of about 40.4 million, as compared to what had been budgeted, which was a decrease of 10.6 million. And then obviously further detail can be found on the budget to actual schedule towards the end of the financial statements. Next slide, please. So here's our contact information. Again, want to say thank you for the opportunity to present. At this point, we'll just pause if there's any questions, concerns, or anything anyone has for us.
Okay, you've heard the report coming from our auditors. Are there any questions from any of the board members?
Yes, I just have a statement. Because, and my statement is because this is so important, and because I'm so new, and because this is so detailed, in the future, could we have a report of this nature somewhere earlier during the meeting, or at a place where we could just actually go through it and ask questions about it?
Okay, all right.
That's for consideration.
Okay,
Not when we're actually been here all afternoon.
got it, duly noted. All right, Ms. Green?
I don't have a question, but I really would like to commend Don and staff, not because I'm finance chair.
Yeah.
When I came on the board, even last year, there were findings, and I mean, this is a major operation, and for you to have made this major accomplishment, I just want to say to you, and please relay to your staff, on behalf of all of us, how proud we are of that accomplishment.
Okay.
Thank you. It is a major accomplishment. Worthy of first year since I came here that we have not had material findings.
Mr. Kennedy?
And I would say it's not just Don, it's a lot of people that's involved in making this happen. So, yeah. So to my staff, thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you so kindly for that report, and as Dr. Frazier duly noted, we will, but we are, not to overshadow that, but we are definitely elated to have received a report as such. And I can remember when I came on, when we came on, some years ago, that there were significant findings, and to receive a report tonight as such is definitely a milestone, and we thank you so much for the work that you and your staff has done making it happen. Thank you for the report, CLA, I believe it is. And Mr. Kennedy, is anything further? No? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to Ms. Waters.
Thank you. I'm here to do the public comments in this moment. Not that I don't want to, but I'm also very happy to say that most of what was received in terms of public comments were actually addressed during this meeting. We got comments regarding shared future, the shared future project, the COVID numbers. So of course we received during the committee of the whole meeting a report from the shared futures project. And then we also got the COVID update. We also got some questions regarding Carolina Voyager and the early dismissal, and all of those items were covered between either the committee of the whole or this current meeting. So very happy about that, and hope that the public feel that their questions were answered appropriately, but I do know that staff is working to address those questions. Any of the public is welcome to leave comments in the board section of the CCSD website. We do receive them, we do review them, and people who submit questions are being responded to.
All right, thank you so much for that. Next, we have item 8A. Mr. Baroli, or you?
I move to approve the reallocation of funds.
I'll second. This is what was discussed in the committee of the whole.
Yeah.
All right, moved by Ms. Darby, second by Ms. Coates. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Coakley, how do you vote?
It's already cast.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, item 8B. Who are we waiting on?
Publish it.
You just got the last one? Okay. All right, motion passes. Item 8B.
Second.
All right, moved by Ms. Green, second by Ms. Darby. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. That motion passes. Item 8C is the monthly capital projects report. And are there any, just for information, are there any questions about that report? Item 8D is the monthly financial report, FY21. Is there any questions about that report? Hearing none, we already approved the consent agenda items at the beginning of the meeting, and they're outlined there as well. Our next board meeting is set for January the 11th. The committee of the whole, and please keep in mind that we'll have the board workshop 2 hours prior to that. The time to be determined, and then our regular board meeting on January 25th. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay.
Yes, Reverend Matt.
Yeah.
As you all know that I will be assigned to the ad hoc committee on tomorrow, and we're scheduled to meet at 8:30 in the morning. One of the purposes that committee, to my understanding, is that we will evaluate the superintendent. And I wanted to know whether there's anything in that contract that we should bring forth for that meeting, or anything that the superintendent has to do before we discuss that on tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Okay, let me get your question right. Is there anything in the
We're going to be discussing the superintendent's contract tomorrow, 8:30.
No, the purpose of the ad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going.
Okay, you go ahead.
I was going to say no. They're not discussing the contract. They're doing the evaluation.
Evaluation.
Yeah, right.
Process. Yeah.
But the ad hoc committee is not doing the evaluation. The ad hoc committee is to look at what that process should be for the next 2 years.
I understand that.
Yeah,
But my question is there anything that the superintendent needs to bring, since this is our last board meeting, regarding her
contract before then? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm going to provide some policy to you tomorrow, but there's nothing that she has to bring to us before the end of the year. Okay. Thanks for asking.
So, there is a question about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So there's one thing, and the superintendent has already covered that. So the superintendent is to report to us her intent by December 1, according to the contract, and the superintendent did that back on October 26th board meeting. So that has been satisfied. So yes, according to her contract, she is to report to us by December 1, and she has already done that back on October 26th. Okay, all right, Dr. French.
On item 4G that we covered this evening, I was wondering if there was a way that we could summarize some of the information that we wanted to get from the party involved in the contracts, since they, we weren't able to really discuss that in open session.
Which item again?
Item 4G, contractual matter. The first contractual matter we discussed.
Uh-huh. What was your question?
Yeah, so we decided to talk about that in January, and I was wondering if there's a way we can summarize some of the information that we wanted from that party before January.
All right, Ms. Ham?
Yes, ma'am. So since I was present in executive session as well as the superintendent, we are aware of what the discussion was and what your individual requests were, and we will pull that together to take action as directed by you.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, hearing no more further discussion, declare this meeting adjourned.